Listeners everywhere, welcome to the Movie Show with Joel and Ryan, the weekly fix for your screen addiction and a trusted source for discussion of all things film and television. Please keep in mind that for the purposes of this podcast, Joel and Ryan are not acting as journalists, but rather fellow moving picture enthusiasts. All of their opinions should be taken as such. Also, please be warned that while Joel and Ryan may seem like petulant children, they are, in fact, adults who may occasionally use adult language. While they promise to bleep out all the worst words, it's a good bet you will still understand what they were saying. And now, with no further ado, here's Joel and Ryan.
Listen on! This is the truth of it. Movies lead to sequels. Sequels lead to trilogies, and that is damn near the death of us all. Look at us now, busted up, and everyone talking about Hard Rain, but we've learned by the dust of them all. This is the Movie Show with Joel and Ryan, and when we review the Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome movie, chances are 2 men like it, 1 man doesn't. Welcome to the Movie Show with Joel and Ryan. I am Joel.
And I'm Ryan.
And of course, we have, once again, Michael Klug is here. Whee!
Yay!
Yay! Hi, Michael. How you doing?
I'm pretty grand. How are you boys?
Good. How are
you? Notice, Michael,
yeah.
I always clap for you like Snape claps for the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teachers every year.
Yep.
It's proper and polite, but there's like not a lot of life in it somehow.
Yeah,
but that's because I don't want to make
it's not
much
enthusiastic.
Noise.
Yeah.
Oh,
it isn't. To be fair, but
I thought you were going to keep it on, Joel. You had it.
Yeah,
from the
no.
beginning.
The lengths.
Okay.
Look. No one watches the video version of this show anyway, so the lengths I go to are absolutely for like my enjoyment and the two of your enjoyment.
That's pretty much
it.
That is pretty much it. Yeah.
And while I love you both,
we're definitely out there in radio land for the vast majority of people that watch the show. But those of you who check out the videos, those 6 of you, hey, thanks. We're doing it all for you.
6 that includes you and me.
I included. We're more like a 10 to 11. You got to give it some time, but the videos do catch up. They do sneak their way into double digits.
Yes.
And when Michael comes, we always get a few extras. And when Rob comes, it's always like 30. He brings like 38 people with him or something.
Wow.
Yeah.
He pimps the thing hardcore. That's part of it. But it's also like, I don't know, it's something about like people just, I think we stumbled into Rob. Like, I think everyone in Rob's life's like, you should be doing a movie podcast. So when he actually does one, they all show up.
People are jonesing for it.
Yeah, it's part of our it is part of our grand plan is to just actually have popular friends. We don't, Ryan and I are not very what's the word I'm looking for? Liked. So we try to have popular friends who have friends and that, it's all about
win by association. That was all part of the master plan.
Correct.
We sat down at that little booth in JJ's all those years ago when we planned this thing out. And eventually COVID will come and we'll put all the expensive microphones away and we'll just do everything over something called Zoom. And we'll have as many popular friends on as we can. And then our numbers will truly soar from 2 to 7.
Correct.
And Michael, don't laugh. They have. It's exactly come true. So
this is exactly how we drew it out. Anyway, so today is episode 3 of the Mad Max May. We are, of course, talking about Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, a movie so good the tagline was "Max is back and Tina's got him." Anything you guys? Well, I mean, we should also. What was the?
You know what it says on the actual poster?
Well, that's what IMDb says was the tagline for the film.
I think the poster has
Um,
something classy and plot related on it, actually.
Oh, sure, yeah. Here we go.
But you're
A
not
lone
wrong.
warrior, yeah.
You're
A
not
lone
wrong to
warrior.
point that out, because Tina Turner's music renaissance was happening in earnest in a big way. So she was a big star, and her casting, she was cast for her looks, man, for her hair at the time. Like, they really just envisioned her as this thing, and nobody knew whether she was going to act in a movie or what the hell she was going to do. I mean, it was really, and nobody really cared. That's sort of a weird little twist. I don't want to start this movie out on a bum note, because Thunderdome, despite, I guess, one of us really not liking it, is nothing if not like super, super fun from moment to moment. It's one you should relax and have fun with. If you can't do that, or you think it's going to be like the other two exactly, I think you're in for disappointment, which has sort of become the reputation of the thing, even though it was a massive hit in the summer of '85. Byron Kennedy, part of the Kennedy Miller producing team, died the year before in a helicopter accident. His motor shut down while they were up in the air, and according to the passenger that he was with, whose name I can't remember, he heroically got them down on the ground, and they both survived the crash. But they were out. I mean, it's Australia. They were out in this lake area in Australia. They were completely remote, and they were both too injured to make their way back to anything resembling civilization. So they spent the night out there. The more able of the two built a little sign that said help, which was spotted by somebody the next day. But overnight, Byron succumbed to his injuries, and his loss is really weighs heavy over this film. There's this, and I really do think you can kind of feel it when you watch it. There's a pall of like grief in it somehow, and it's not like the story elements really deal with that. It's just George Miller doing his usual directing job, but he's hired a television miniseries director, a pretty accomplished one at the time, George Ogilvy, but still a little known Australian television director, essentially, to direct all the scenes involving people and talking. And George had an obligation to make this movie, but his heart flat out wasn't in it when Byron was taken from him. And that was right in the middle of creating the thing. But he had an obligation to it. He'd gotten Mel to sign up. They were all friends and everything. I mean, all the crew and everybody was back. So he did. He agreed to do the tricky stuff, the big car chase at the end, the Thunderdome fight, some of the other things that dealt with a lot of extras and a lot of big scale. And Ogilvy dealt with almost entirely with the children's scenes and a lot of the other incidental stuff that Miller didn't have anything to do with. And it made the thing work. Like, they could puzzle that together. Even the movies are puzzled together. The film started out as a script that was or a treatment. I'm not sure which, but either way, an idea that was just in the aftermath of nuclear war, as some drifter stumbles across this tribe of children that have been living this sort of Blue Lagoon / slightly Lord of the Flies existence. And it was somewhere into developing that where Miller said, "Oh, wouldn't it be cool if the character that finds them was Max Rockatansky?" And so the thing grew out of that. It didn't start as some badass biker gang sequel to Mad Max and then drift aimlessly into that. It started as that. And the Fistful of Dollars opening was then grafted onto it, so that and as well as the chase. And you can feel these sections being almost extremely unique things. I don't think they're disconnected, but there's no singular plot drive to this, because it takes this huge detour in what it was actually supposed to be right in the middle of it. Well, and that's that. The violence is plentiful, but it's cartoony and quite a bit toned down. There's no brutal people getting sucked under the wheels of cars and stuff, or being murdered or tortured or raped, or there's just anything like that in it. it's not exactly a family film though either. So
it's funny because I meant to look up because I'm like, I've of course seen this movie, I don't know, hundreds of times. And so watching it this most recent time and seeing Ogilvy's name, I'm like, I think I knew it, but I never really connected or researched what was his part in this. I love that you told me that because
I don't know for sure. They kept a lid on that and they don't really talk about who did what, but I just think Miller was required to do some of the technically really, really tricky things that he was the guy to do. And Ogilvy could hold down the fort working with a bunch of people and working with that child cast in particular.
There are tonal issues. Like I watching it and my God, it really does shift because there's no brutal violence on screen. It's not pleasant, but there's still that sense of the world that we've already come to know. And then it turns into something so different. And even we get some slapstick, via Iron Bar. It's very weird to me. And I think as a kid, whatever, it was enjoyable. It was fun. I loved it. I had a good time, but looking at it now, I'm like, it's very disjointed. And I don't think it's a bad idea. I think Bartertown is a fantastic idea. But I think when I go to the kids, even though there's a nice sense of hope and there is interest there, it's just not what I want out of a Mad Max movie.
His unwillingness to be their messiah is interesting. I really like the kids. I love their language. I think that we'll get to them, I guess, as we work through this plot point by plot point. But my favorite thing about them is the way they speak. I think that's much trickier to do in a consistent way, to just create a whole new way of communication. It's not a new language, but I think that's really, really well done. And I think the iconography, that tableau of them sitting on top of that crashed jetliner, there's just images in it that are amazing. But you're not wrong.
Good.
It's more like Beyond Thunderdome. This is the movie that shows you what this kind of patchwork Hollywood, let's do it again, but then let's steal from here and steal from there is.
No, and
the other great example is Live Free or Die Hard, which didn't start as a Die Hard movie, and you can really feel where it isn't one and can't function really right. But
according to George Miller apparently said himself that he and Ogilvy were together the only time the two were not together was when Ogilvy filmed the camel sequences. So according to Miller, they were together on set the entire time together, and that the whole story kind of behind it was because of the quote from Miller was ambiguous press releases. So whatever that means.
Well, I think so. I know we're going to dive in
more. It made everybody make up their own mind about it. Ogilvy was still brought in to do a very, very specific job and take the pressure off of Miller for making another Mad Max movie that he had to have done without his partner for the summer of '85. They were all committed to that much. So,
well, no, but I think one of the things that as I've been thinking about it is that, I think Mad Max, there's definitely a driving force. There's an outcome that we're expecting. Same with Road Warrior. There's definitely a goal. I feel like Max is very reactionary in this. He doesn't really he handles things well, as we know he will, but he just falls into all these things, every single one of them.
Yep.
Getting into Bartertown, that's because of his stuff got stolen. He got put on the horse and sent out to the desert. That's how he stumbled upon the kids. So I think maybe he
literally makes one decision in the entire movie, and it is not to murder Blaster. Otherwise, you're exactly right. Everything else is just, I guess he makes another one kind of at the end, but that decision sort of makes itself. So,
yeah, I think that's something maybe subliminally that I'm taking away why it's a lesser film. I think because it's disjointed, but because it's not the Max we know. It's not the take charge and kick ass guy. He's just doing whatever happens to happen.
I always thought it wasn't as good a movie just because the last movie was just almost perfect. I just don't think it could have been as good. And what it bravely does is it doesn't do all that same stuff again. You get the same kind of car chase again, but even watching that in the middle of the night last night, it isn't the same. Like, it's not as intense or as cool, but it has a lot of really really crazy, goofy stuff in it that is enjoyable and is kind of neat for its own sake. Him stealing back Master and jumping between the things, and the shot of the thing parting with the people stuck out of it on the other side.
Yeah.
You know, who were right on top of us until our hero came along. Stuff like that is really fantastic.
This is a
and I like our Iron Bar and his 9 lives, but Joel, you probably need to start us off on what the movie is, so we talk about it in order. We'll get to
Let's jump into it. We're already some excellent analysis, but let us jump right on in. So go ahead, strap yourselves into a giant rubber band thing and grab a chainsaw or a giant scythe of some kind, and let's get ready to talk about Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
I have to do a deep dive.
Deep dive. Deep dive.
I have to do a deep dive.
Deep dive. Deep dive.
I have to do a deep dive.
Deep dive. Deep dive. Deep dive.
Someday we'll have to do a deep dive on Ghost in the Shell, the thing that quote comes from.
Okay.
Or maybe we won't. Maybe we won't.
I'm not sure that's going to be high on our list. All right, so the movie starts out. We get Max. Last time we saw Max was alone. That was the last we ever saw of him, and he roamed the outback, and he had nothing. But of course, Max is a scavenger. Max finds stuff. Max accumulates. He gets stuff to survive, and we see this train of camels pulling a cart that is, filled with all sorts of stuff. A monkey. Everything is here, and we're flying in. We're literally flying in. We think it's just an establishing shot, but no. This is indeed POV from a plane.
From a little kind of toy plane. And that is what's happening. Can I go back just 2 seconds and talk about Mike Chapman and Holly Knight and One of the Living?
Oh, I love that song.
I'd forgotten about One of the Living, and that was, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good song.
So
this movie had 2 great songs written for it, and it doesn't start with the more famous of the 2. It starts with the sort of ugly step cousin, but it's a fantastic way to start. The opening credits are just white text on black, but they are done in sort of a little goofy way where everybody, which you don't normally see this, where everybody's character name is stated. Yeah. So you're getting to see all these crazy character names that holds the promise of what's coming later in the movie. The Kennedy Miller logo is very 80s chic, and you only see it in this film.
Geffany.
Yeah, it's very Geffany. I agree. That's a good term for it. So all you logo fanatics out there, we know you're out there. You know exactly what Michael's saying when he says Geffany. And it's just a cool song, and the title is huge across the screen. First time we've seen that. And then the first music we hear coming out is not the familiar Brian May, strings and mad woodwinds and horns of destiny. It's something much subtler for this film by Maurice Jarre, who's brought in, presumably because to do a desert adventure movie, because he did Lawrence of Arabia probably, but what he comes up with has a little bit of Arabian desert adventure flavor to it actually later in the film, but it's very electronic and yet it's kind of a perfect mix of both worlds as far as scores go in that time. Morris obviously all-time classic, but he can be a little bit old-fashioned. He is here, and yet compared to May, compared to that Bernard Herrmann stuff, there's none of that in this. And I think that's good, because I actually think the joys of this movie are, like it or not, most people don't like it, but they're just much, much subtler than because I think I wouldn't change a note in May's music for Road Warrior. It's fantastic, but it's hugely melodramatic, and that's been put away. So yeah, but we get this crazy bird's eye view shot. I'm always really frustrated when I watch the Blu-ray because it's got just, you can even see it in the credits. It's got this terrible telecine judder in the transfer, and so that thing which should be the smooth soaring in, which is how they shot it, is going la, 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 the whole time like crazy. And I was like, why is it like that? They could have just, all they had to do to fix that was just scan it again, and they didn't because of money probably. Because it certainly wasn't shot with all that shake in it, but it's still a glorious opening shot, and that our establishment, without showing his face or anything, I mean, I think we know who he is, showing all his stuff and his monkey sidekick and all this crap that he has. Or is it the pilot that comes with the monkey sidekick that takes over the thing? I can't remember.
No, he has the monkey already.
He's got the monkey changes allegiances in the film is what happens. Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. That's better, actually.
Well,
it's better.
I am a big fan of One of the Living. I think that the version in the film is actually better than the kind of the single version. It's like there's a key difference, or there's something different about it.
It's more, it's simplified in the arrangement, and it's abrasive, and that gives it a little more energy.
In the movie, it's simplified. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Awesome. Yeah, I guess I don't know the last time I've heard I guess we'll call it the studio version.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to own the soundtrack for that.
It's always been one of my favorite Tina Turner songs. Like there's something even more so than Thunderdome, I think, even though Thunderdome is so iconic in my youth. But I think the introduction here of who I think we've had this discussion. I feel like we've talked about this numerous times, that it's not the same character that happens to be on the plane as.
And that's tough for people to get, but it isn't because the same character.
I know it's not, but it's so frustrating to me. Why not? Why not? Because it's the same actor, the same kind of attitude. They're both pilots.
Uh-huh.
Why? What was the point of not making it the same? I don't quite get it, and it's always been frustrating because there is something at the very end, which I know we've talked about, that makes it seem like could be.
Yeah, and it's not by accident. It's put in there deliberately where they sort of recognize each other. I'll try and justify the choice, although I'm with you. I have the same questions. It's a little weird. The only reason I can think of not making him the same is that the character was probably written without Bruce in mind, and then it became somewhere along the line of like, why don't we bring him along? That'll be weird, but whatever. This was not the era of continuity. The kids today, man, are obsessed with continuity. If you get something off or you do something different in one of the MCU movies that wasn't in one of the others or whatever, it confuses canon, and it sends the internet into a uproar, and into a literal uproar of pain and shouting and hurt feelings, and it's just terrible. This was just, well, let's do it. It'll be fun. Let's bring him back, and the movie benefits from his presence. I think they didn't meld the character to the old one because they settled the old guy's story in the last film.
But it wouldn't have required much to change it. It wouldn't have. I mean, literally him saying partner once. All right, it's the gyro captain.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just always, even as a kid, I'm like, I don't quite get, because I for years thought this is the same character, and it was that look of recognition at the end that always convinced me that it was the same. And I still maybe would fight to the death, be like, I think it's a possibility that it is.
Well, and the movie leaves you that possibility, so it doesn't rob you of that. I don't think. They've been asked about this, and they've always said, "Oh, it's not the same." So there's an official answer, but the film plays it so coy and cute with it that I do believe it's okay for you to take away that guy's the same guy. But
it would ruin it. What it would ruin potentially is the ending of the previous movie. We would go, well, right, I thought they reached paradise. I thought they were able to live out the rest of their days. What happened to the rest of?
He became the leader of the tribe. He got married to his sweetheart. I mean, you take all that away when you make him not that.
Not necessarily. I mean, I feel like he's got a kid. Maybe things, I don't know, didn't go well, and so he parted ways with his kid. I don't know. It's like, I don't know. I could make up
Chaka took over, he stole his wife.
That kid's like,
he was 8. Like, well, I gotta live as a cuck on the outback now.
No, but yeah, he's the kid he's got is like what, 7 or 8 years old, right?
Yep.
So Chaka or
around the distance of the
would be like 18
stories.
years old. So he could have taken over. That's my official stance. End of story. Done. There you go.
No, you know that would I mean, that theoretically that would work, where everyone is happy except for Gyro Pilot, who goes on and he's like, well, I don't have a gyro anymore. Let's upgrade.
Yeah.
And
come on, kid. Captain's girl. We had our
him and his kids zoom over the Max's caravan of the future, and they rip them off. Essentially, they have this very complex way they steal from people. It's a fun way to open the movie. It gets our character where you see he has not only been surviving in this post-apocalyptic world, but he has been thriving. And it gets him down to ground zero in a hurry, which is where we want this guy. It's where he's most effective from a story standpoint. And it's so mean of his former friend to do that to him.
Yeah.
I guess.
Well,
trying to appease Michael here.
Yeah,
but,
to be fair,
maybe they don't know who they're doing it to.
He would, because he's all wrapped. He's all Lawrence of Arabia.
Just some hooded nomad. I mean,
they're like,
with some good stuff.
With some good stuff, and so we take his stuff. And where do you take stuff that you steal? You take it to Bartertown. And of course, it's not hard for Max to track where they went. He's just following the tire tracks, because it's not like they lifted the camels.
Yeah, he drops his kid into the thing, and it just takes off with the camels, with the rig, with everything. The rig's built on top of an old Ford something from the similar era as the previous cars, but not the same kind of car. And it's got these big tires on it, and it's all been changed. Some car genius figured out what exact model it was from what was left of the interior in the chase scene at the end. But that's cool. It's cool that it's something similar, and it's very cool that it is not the same, because we really don't need any more what's what confusion in this film than we already have. And Bartertown is great. And again, here immediately you have Maurice's sophisticated music that clink, clunk, 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 clunk. Yeah. It's like really, really cool and different. And Bartertown, the march into Bartertown is filled with all these extras, and the guy selling radioactive water. That guy's my favorite.
What's a little fallout, huh?
And the fact
What's a little fallout, hey?
And the fact that Max was able to, Max, amongst one of the many things he scavenged was a detector and a radiation detector that he keeps it on, and he keeps it on. So that never got stolen. That's you keep that on.
It's so funny. It's huge. He would not be walking around with that thing. But again, the gag is. I know. It's like whatever. This movie's warning you right now. Chill out. It's going to be okay. You got to calm down. It isn't what it. It's a gag, down to the gag. And when he shows up, he sees his camels being sold. He shows up at the counter there where he's got to hand off his weapons, and it's the old, I have 9,000 weapons on me, one of which is as big as a horse. That's a classic gag.
It's great, but I don't want to smooth over. Obviously, we get introduced to Iron Bar and some of his gang, but one of my favorite supporting characters what's his name? Is it the bald dude that kind of is the gatekeeper guy?
Yeah,
I love that actor.
Play here.
Yeah, he's
that guy.
Great.
Yeah, that
think
guy
of the character's name.
Is
he's such a hoot. Every time he's on screen in this, he gives me the laughs. I just love him. I think he's great.
I think all these henchmen and all these
Frank Thring. Frank Thring is the collector.
I thought he was the collector. Okay, I thought all right.
Yeah, he's great. He sort of works out the rules. You go to Bartertown, you come here to trade, or you got nothing to buy, got nothing to sell, got nothing to trade. You can't come here. And he's like,
the brothel's full.
I have a theory that Bartertown was built on top of an American suburban high school that somehow ended up in the outback, because there's a plethora of shoulder pads, theater department wigs, goth and masks,
kids. Yep,
goth kids, And and
the pig does sort of feel like the basement boiler room of a high school, actually, if you look at the design down there and everything.
So that's a theory that I'm working on.
They're in some gutted out building because they didn't dig all that into the wall and then put all this old iron architecture in.
No, but I think what is so beautiful about that reveal as he walks through and the music starts up again, the production design of this movie is insane.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Like all of the detail. I mean, this place lives, it breathes. You can smell it when he's walking through.
And Dean Semler's photography is just off the hook good.
Yeah,
it's really well made movie. There's no doubt about that.
I mean, it absolutely is Mad Max with a budget. I mean, this is they finally have a budget. They finally have studio money that is going to that like all right and make it
fun little side story.
Make it look.
Sorry to interrupt when we just barely started, but it's something worth mentioning that's part of the Mad Max lore. In the 90s, George Miller owned the rights to adapt and direct Carl Sagan's Contact. And they really wanted to do that like they were all for that for a while, and then they got some other plan, and Warner really wanted to do that with a different director, Robert Zemeckis, it turned out. And Contact is really great, so that all worked out for everybody. But they had to get the rights from Miller, and they were going to give him millions. But he's like, "What do you give the guy who already has everything?" Is kind of the situation after, all his films. He was doing all right. What he asked for was the rights to the Road Warrior and Beyond Thunderdome. The rights to Mad Max were not Warner Brothers to give, but they complied, so he got those two movies back in his house, and that's happy too. Like it all kind of that's a Bartertown like side story special for you there. I think I always thought it was kind of neat that would be better at the end of the show, but I might forget it by the time we get there.
Yeah,
so there you go.
That's great. Yeah, because I had also read that he at one point wanted to like bring the Mad Max world, this post-apocalyptic world, into a series, a television series.
I remember talking about that. Yeah.
Which which would work probably would work in sort of a HBO Max sort of way.
Yes. Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe someday something like that will still happen. Who knows? Let's get.
It's going to be on Max. It's got to have a lot of foreign chefs setting things on fire.
Yeah, foreign chefs setting things on fire. It'll be like Max will show up and he's like, "Well, we have to somehow build a structure," and then all of a sudden, Chip and Joanna Gaines will show up and go, "Well, we're gonna. I think we can build
Here's
this."
Your fixer-upper.
Yeah, I know, and that's a feel-good story because, of course, in the apocalypse, they lost their parents.
At the end, Bartertown does need reconstruction. So Chip and Joanna Gaines are the way to go.
Aaron and Ben Napier are gonna come on down and make it look like.
Is that the hometown people?
That's the hometown people.
So what does Max have? What does he have left? A certain set of skills, right, Joel?
Yep, he has a certain set of skills, and so and he's quick. He's quick. It's noted that it's like, okay, that's something that we haven't seen. Someone who's quick like this. And so it's like, come on, let's go, screw all these other people waiting in line and all the money that is here to be made and all the goods that are, we're gonna walk a half hour to go see Auntie
and go up a man-powered elevator.
I mean, there is an agenda, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
No, he's been waiting, and this is guy's potentially the prize.
I hope the collector has like a collector light, like someone who could step in and help some of those other customers. That's all I'm saying.
No, dude,
customer service
in line.
Because they are about
for
to
all
get
we know,
dinged.
they're still there waiting in line.
They are going to get dinged on apocalyptic Yelp for their customer service.
Sounds like a deal. It's not.
Yep. But anyway, so we go see, and we meet. We as we're climbing or as we're ascending on this elevator.
Let me just say that it goes from this cheesy, you got these leather-clad, muscled people operating the elevator to this wide shot where you see their figures in it. I don't know quite how they did this.
So pretty
with the the orange desert in the background.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the other thing that's great of watching the Blu-ray all these years of Road Warrior, which is, it's the way to watch it because you can see everything and there's a lot of detail in that movie. But the sad thing about it is the high definition transfer really does bleed all that sepia, as Michael noted last week, out of it. And it's just back with a vengeance in this movie. And except it's kind of done right, where it's Semler captured it in the moment as opposed to just post-processing the detail out of everything afterwards, and it looks awesome. And that's one of my favorite shots in it. Just majestical, and
you got to wonder where
to it.
Well, where's Auntie and Tauntaun's sewage going, because there's no kind of pipes coming down.
Well, not only that, they do almost a 360 of the room. Where does she sleep? Like it's like, is this just her office? It feels like she must live up there.
Yeah. But she wouldn't be with the riffraff. But I obviously, I don't want to jump on you, Joel, but it's like this introduction and this character are legendary in my movie mind. Like, I love Tina in this role. I love the character. Every time, it's the same thing with like The Collector. Every time I watch Auntie or watch this movie and I see Auntie, I mean, I just smile. She just makes me happy. Mm-hmm. And Tina's delivery, everything is so
she's
perfect.
Vamping it up, but in a way that really, a way that you have to do on screen, where you can't just be, she's keeping it tight and yet really, really vamping it up. And that's what role calls for.
Yeah. This is one of those times where you need an iconic performer that brings a mystique to that the audience knows something about ahead of time. I mean, I shouldn't say they don't have to, but it helps. It helps that we know Tina Turner. It helps that we know her as this ballsy singer that is just like this badass woman. All of that is just a great shorthand, so that when we meet her, we know that she means
business.
Yeah, and she's not, she's not asked to carry the movie. She's not asked to do anything. What she is asked to do, she absolutely delivers on. She's really fun. But before we get to Tina,
the leaders of the two communities that we meet are both women too. I think that's cool.
Yeah. But real quick, a nod back to Mad Max, the first Mad Max. As we're coming up, we hear kick-ass saxophone playing.
Yep.
Just saxophone, and it's like, oh yeah, so that we get this great sort of full circle moment where the saxophone is back. Excuse me, and
she has a private blind saxophone player.
Yep, some would call him a private saxer, a saxer for money. Sax is what you want him to sax, and
something tragic.
Yeah,
he pulled the right tune out for sure.
That's a great little moment too. That plays something tragic.
Tragic.
So this is the moment that really propels things forward. Auntie has Auntie and her coterie of imaginatively named friends.
Well, before you go into what she wants of Max, I do want to say that there's a night we talk all the time about storytelling, very compact and efficient.
Yep.
We get just that tiny little bit about Auntie, about I was nobody before the day, and then the day after I was somebody and I built this. That's it. That's all we get. We didn't know she has family, husband, children, anything like that. And I always have appreciated that. It's like, okay, so what did she do before? I mean, was she, did she work? Yeah.
The less you know, the better, because you ask all those questions, and it is the questions and not the answers that are interesting. Yeah. I've said it over and over on the show. The more you find out about Hannibal Lecter, the lamer and stupider he is. You just suck the mystique and suck the danger out of the guy. Mm-hmm. And each successive thing where they just completely dissect it and explain everything away, Hannibal has this great line in Silence of the Lambs. It's not in the movie; it's in the book. But he says, or in Manhunter, in Red Dragon, he says, he goes, nothing made me like this. I always was this, and you just have to deal with that. And that's such a great go F yourself line. So be careful what you wish for when you go read the Auntie Entity comics and whatever the other crap that's out there, the fan fiction.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and I agree
Entity
with Joel.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that I agree with you that the fact that we don't get anything but Tina.
Yep.
That's it. But it
does strengthen my theory about the American suburban high school that somehow ended up in the Australian outback, because she, of course, is American.
Yep.
So I'm thinking
Master.
Like she was the like the drama teacher, or maybe a parent who volunteered on costumes, specializing in massive shoulder pads. And
that costume alone should have won an Oscar. That is so iconic, and I'm like, I literally one day want to be that for Halloween. I want to be Anti-Entity. Yeah. Anyway,
I'd like to see that.
I would, yeah. That if you do that, we will have a whole show dedicated to your Halloween costume.
All right, cool.
But yeah, so the offer is made. Here's what here's what you can get in exchange for everything that you need, and we'll outfit you with everything that you lost. Because we saw his camels, we saw that the pilot and everybody they've landed, they've sold off all of his stuff. Dr. Dealgood is auctioning off all of the camels. So Max just wants back what was his. In exchange, they have a proposition for him, and the target is Master Blaster. So we have is that before? No, so they give him the offer, and then they
give him like the test first, which is really
the
fun,
test first. Yeah, you're right. The
Congratulations,
test,
you survived the audition.
Yeah. Exactly. It's great stuff. Where they basically just all attack him, and he's the first guy to survive the test, the audition. So then they make this work. Then they make this pitch. They explain what makes the whole show go, which is this style of fuel based on pig excrement. And he even says bullshit, and they're like,
no, pig shit.
No, pig shit.
No, pig shit. He makes the distinction. Pig shit. Methane cometh from pig shit. That's great delivery.
And the man who runs
the mastermind behind it all.
Yeah.
Just since we're saying it again, I'll repeat. Also American.
Yep. Master Blaster
is a fella named Master Blaster, which is really two guys. One Master, the brain, and Blaster, the muscle. Master's a little person who rides around on the top of a giant hulking masked automaton, and together they form an extremely powerful and difficult to reckon with team. And yet Master is their tinkerer. He's the guy that makes the post-apocalypse work. He's the one who fixes all the broken stuff and makes everything go. So they want to lose the muscle but keep the brain, and then they want to, and then that way they'll be able to control him. Right now,
right, because like everything, we think that we think that everything is being run from the top, but really it is that, it's that engine
control the technology, and you control the
I want to, before we go too far, I want to talk about one of my favorite edits in the film is "You can shovel shit, can't you?" Her delivery, but then the cutaway to the pig farm underneath. And then the music starts up. Yeah, it's great. I love it.
But they basically say you got to kill him, and you got to do it in a way that nobody knows it's us. And he's like, "Why?" Yeah. He asked them, "Why don't you just kill him?" And they're like,
"We're dealing in subtleties here."
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you got to do it, and it can't come back to the top.
Yeah, he's almost family.
Yeah, that's quite the phrase. Actually, that's a very, very cool line. He's almost family.
So how do we kill the muscle but keep the brains? Well, that is where we are introduced to Thunderdome. Thunderdome it's a steel cage where you go in and you fight it out one-on-one.
And couple things before we get too into Thunderdome. he has to go down there. His rig is down there. His rig is bombed to explosive. There's a very funny mechanic guy who is saved from exploding at the last second by our hero's entrance. We don't need to go into detail about that, but that's a fun sequence. And then we also meet Pig Killer, who maybe my favorite character in the movie. The more I watch it, as I grow older, like I didn't really get him as a kid. I didn't care. He's fine. But as I grow older, like his
story,
hey, it's all just life anyway. Like his whole attitude is,
life
expectancy down here is about 3 years. Whatever, woo. Something about that dude and his part in the finale is interesting. That crazy moment, and this is leaping way ahead, but the other reason I really like it, that crazy moment where he looks up from playing with the pigs to see that kid standing there.
Yeah.
There's something nebulous. We're not told what this moment is about, but the way it's
shot. Yeah.
Yeah, and just the way it's captured, there's something really, really human that transpires silently between these two characters. So Pig Killer is the only guy to make friend with Max in his brief time working down in the pig shit. Just a couple things worth mentioning.
Played by Robert Grubb. Robert Grubb, maybe an Australian relation to our old college chum George. We'll have to find out. So Max goes down and spends a day doing a little cosplay as a pig shit shoveler, and because he wants to get the size of the man, he wants to figure out, okay, how can I beat this guy? The guy being Blaster. And he sorts it out, because when they are trying to disarm his car,
right,
which they make Max go in and disarm not a car, but disarm his rig, and he presses
it's a car under there, believe it or not.
Yeah,
so it's sort of accurate. It feels more like a giant, I don't know what, but it is a car.
Yeah, it's a wagon. I mean, it's a giant.
It's a car he's turned into a wagon.
Yeah. Yep. And so he in the process of disarming it, he hits a couple things that are some alarms, and he sees that the Blaster has some issues with sound in that helmet.
Yes.
He has some sensory issues, and so
we've seen Max from his pile of lost crap. We've seen him pick up a little naval whistle.
Yeah. Bless you, Joel.
And just like, and I always like that moment, the naval whistle thing, because it reminds me of the music box that he scavenges at the beginning. Like he looks at it,
absolutely,
and somewhere in the back of his head, his instinct for living or whatever it is, like maybe it's there's that hoarder's chance that this one thing might actually help me out.
Last that little bit right before at the very opening, the way he blows the whistle and it distorts, I think is so wonderfully creepy. I don't know.
I agree.
Anyway, going ahead, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You could, you could do a whole treatise on Mad Max and the importance of music/art in a post-apocalyptic world.
More importantly, the interconnectivity of each moment, and how everything, how each moment doesn't really make you think of anything, and then it comes back to be meaningful later.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Because you're absolutely right. Because it shows that Max is literally, he's gonna like, well, who knows? This might be somewhere I might be able to trade this for something. Or
it's not only that, when everything falls off the truck in the beginning, well, you only have so many things you can carry, and you're not getting that much. Grab everything you can.
Thanks to Monkey. Monkey's the one shoving stuff out to make sure that he can track. So
that is the least loyal animal sidekick that you will ever see. That Monkey.
Yep.
It is. Right, so I mean, compared to his dog, just the comparison is like, look how far you've fallen, man. Your traveling companions are worthless. The dog saves his life multiple times. That monkey's like, oh, I guess I'm with this kid now. Screw you, man.
he's got food. Sweet. Okay.
That's it.
All right, so how do you beat Blaster? You got to fight him one-on-one in Thunderdome. Figure it
Well,
out. So
after
now
those
you gotta
alarms go off, he blows the whistle and sees
make
that
sure
it
it
has the same
bothers him.
reaction
make
on it.
sure,
And it's
make sure
only
it has
then
the
that
same-
he picks the fight with him when he knows he has a trump card that he can play.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So
But yeah, go ahead, Joel. Sorry.
No, I was
Into
just gonna
Thunderdome.
say. I mean, so they're like, the fight is picked. Go into Thunderdome. And you go in without weapons, but there are weapons strategically placed around that if you can get to them, you can use
Chance
them.
decides.
Yeah, and you are hooked up to essentially giant rubber band bungee apparatuses for, I guess, just for entertainment purposes, to make the fight seem a little bit more fun.
Pre-bungee technology, I would say. It's pretty accurate.
And
you can't gloss over Auntie's amazing entrance.
Yeah, so of course, obviously, this is entertainment. This is the gladiatorial games. Yep. Everyone comes, and there is a direct zip line, for lack of a better term, from Auntie's office / sparse.
I really refer to it as her office as well. I really think that's more what it is.
Oh my god,
her domicile.
Well, no, I'm just picturing Tauntaun at a desk typing up there. You know,
yeah, and he's like, "Oh, it's lunchtime."
Oh, and
I guess I gotta go down.
There's probably too many to track throughout, but what we in the audition, we saw Iron Bar, really great sidekick character, basically a stunt man with a couple of lines. His best line is here in the Thunderdome sequence. Fun. Yep. Yeah. We've seen him survive one of his 9 lives in the film. He literally has 9 lives. He dies 9 times, but doesn't ever die. Maybe he's dead at the end. I still like to think, if you count him, he makes it out of the rubble at the end. But it's hard to say. You can have it either way if your dark soul needs Iron Bar to be dead at the end, and you can believe that too. I just think that, again, it's just stupid and cartoony and clownish. It's the things that Joel says it is, and it really is. But it's Iron Bar's multiple deaths are fun. They're effing hilarious. I mean, they're really, really. After you get into the second, the first one, you're like, what? By the third or fourth one, I mean, I'm just giggling every time it happens.
That's the difference between Road Warrior and Mad Max. One of the profound differences, because Gyro Captain does bring some comic relief, but it never
descends to that level at all. It's a dark world.
Yeah, but then this is just literally like Looney Tunes. Yeah. And it just doesn't. It's fine. You're right. It's fun. It's goofy. It's fun. But I'm like, based on what's actually happening, and then what we're about to see in Thunderdome, that doesn't jive. I mean, because there's a lot going on in that last moment inside the dome.
Yep. So we get
so she doesn't just zip line in either. She zip lines in on a throne, essentially.
On a throne. It's really cool, and she has her she has the what can only be the only sort of luxury box, or the royal stand, totally. of thing. Everything else is just, everyone just climbs on, because it's a jungle gym. It's like one of those kind of half.
That really is what it is. It's a jungle gym. It's a really large, like jungle gym domed climbing
you would find, you would find at a suburban school in America.
On steroids.
And that they've attached all the steel to it, spikes kind of coming out of it in places that you could use as part of the fight. So we have the Blaster, this giant behemoth of a man, and Max, the nimble mouse, it's flipping
the man
all
with
over.
No name.
Yeah, that's a great little moment.
Fantastic. And I'll mention that Jedediah, the pilot, who may or may not be the Gyro Captain, and Pig Killer are next to each other. Their heads kind of in the same little hole. In Thunderdome.
Even the person,
the reaction
even the
shots
guy.
by them are pure comedy, comedy classics.
I think overall this whole sequence is so amazingly edited, because there is so much going on. I mean, you get the stab in the audience, all the cutaway reactions of anticipation from Auntie's people.
Yep.
There's just so much happening. It's intense. It's wonderful. It's
Dr.
Every
Dealgood
time,
and his lovely assistants and all the pageantry that goes with it, and the things that they chant. And then just the bungee fight in general. Of course, it's nothing. The plan works out to one degree or another, but nothing goes as expected. It really goes wrong in every way possible. It's a thrilling mano-a-mano, fight. It really is. Thunderdome is super cool, and it's the high point. It's the jumping off point for a lot of fans of Mad Max. They're like, "This is it," and then I just turn it off and go to bed.
Yep. Blaster, Blaster is he's a brutal fighter. He is brawn. So it is typical.
You got to be quick to fight him. You can't. Yep. You can't be tougher than him. There's no chance.
Yeah. And Max, it's not all, Max is losing at points and then figures it out, gets a hold of that whistle. And that's
after he's get kicked all over
like 10 times. Yeah.
Finally gets a hold of that whistle, and then it's like essentially game over at that point, and starts.
And he's got this big like carnival, like judge your strength hammer thing that he. Yep. That is boom, boom, and the one where he hits him from below and it knocks his helmet off.
Yep. The
impact of that you feel when you're watching it is really, really amazing.
Yep, everyone sees who
another masterfully made action sequence in the Mad Max
who the Blaster really is, and the Blaster is he is a man with Down syndrome, who apparently is just this hulking thing, and for some reason,
and this is neat, Master
for some reason Max won't kill him. Max is like. For some reason,
Master runs to him first and makes his plea. Although Max hesitates right away, like he doesn't want to kill him. But Master comes running into Thunderdome. This is key because it ends up being a tricky thing that Auntie's got to get out of. He cradles him essentially. Master's played by a great little person actor, Angelo Rosito, who's fantastic in this movie, really, really fun. One of his later roles of his career. And can't you see he's just blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's just so now all of a sudden, whatever we thought about these people and the embargoes and their feuding and how they're both bad guys, like it's partly that it is partly that innocent look on Blaster's face, no question. But it's more than that. It's he really cares about this guy and stuff. Well, so Max refuses. I mean, ultimately he hesitates for sure, and then he ultimately refuses to kill him.
Well, this is one of two scenes in the film that I would consider Road Warrior level brutality.
Yeah.
This is harsh.
Because even after all that, they shoot him with a crossbow from outside the arena and just kill him. Yeah, which is awful after everything that we've seen. And then you're left with Master and Max still in Thunderdome with everybody chanting, one man enters, two man enter, one man leave. And Auntie can't, she's gotten what she wants. She doesn't see running the place. So she basically has to zoom in, fly down in there. She does this howl.
That's great.
Which is fantastic.
Don't you think I know the law?
I wrote the law or whatever. It's a really cool scene. And she's like, okay, right or wrong. Because he keeps saying no deal. And they're like, hey, what deal? Like, all this has gone wrong now. Everything's out in the open. Yep. And she goes, right, like it or love it. Or
he broke a deal.
Yeah, he broke a deal. You break a deal, you spin the wheel. And now the chant changes from two man enter, one man leave to...
The audience has a chance for more carnage now. They might see another death, another thing, and it's.
But you can see how under her thumb they are, and it really was this one guy standing in her way of absolute power.
Yes.
But what she absolutely couldn't have was the two of them duking it out to the death, and Max walking out, and Master and Blaster both being gone. So she's got to jump in, fess up. She's just got to do quick thinking, quick work here to get this turned around in her favor. And because she's got a law that includes a chant, she gets the chant going her way again. and the wheel. Just when you get some time, pause on the wheel and make sure you.
I can tell you.
Options.
I can tell you. I can tell you. I have them right here.
Let's go.
So the options are acquittal, so you have a chance. Now that, of course, is the smallest wedge.
Yeah.
But you have a chance. Yep. Amputation.
Yep.
Auntie's choice.
I love that one.
Yep.
That's my favorite too.
Yep. Death. Just death.
Yep.
Forfeit goods. Fair. That's for if you were a big time.
That would have been good for Max because he doesn't have anything.
Right, just the whistle.
Gulag, which we'll get to in a moment.
We'll find out what that is.
Hard labor, life imprisonment, spin again, and Underworld. I'm a little surprised that they didn't do the spin again gag.
Oh my God. No, it's just funny enough that it's on there. Even the whole thing where they explain it, you can spin the wheel, break a deal, spin the wheel, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And even that I can't take my eyes off her when she's on screen. I don't normally admit this sort of thing, but that Dabo sister looking assistant, she comes up to him and takes his hand and kind of spins it for him.
Yeah.
So adorable and like, isn't this fun? Like, I'm gonna do my job here or whatever. Something about that is amazing to me. And it spins and what is it? It's almost Auntie's choice, right? But it ends up being click, 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 gulag.
Gulag.
And everyone gets to chant again. Ooh, gulag, gulag.
I'll let Joel, with his incredible descriptive powers, to explain to us what gulag ends up being.
Okay, so gulag is a banishment. It is you are sentenced to die by banishment. It is the equivalent of sending someone out on an ice floe. But so he is tied and bound and tied facing backwards on a donkey. This donkey has the proverbial carrot on a stick, but in this case,
horse, yeah.
Horse. Sorry. But the proverbial carrot in front of the horse in this case is water.
Yeah, a little weird little thing that comes out in front of him and hangs, and this little ball of water that jiggles back and forth. So odd and goofy. And he is also placed on his head as some sort of giant paper mache
mask like you would build in a high school art class,
perhaps.
And so they put this giant oversized comical cartoon head on him, and theoretically that is going to do nothing but capture heat and and make him even more miserable. So it's
slap the horse's ass and off
and
into
it
the
also
wasteland
means
he goes.
It also means that Mel doesn't have to do this stunt. So you put the mask on him. I kind of love it. I can, the conversation was quick, but it was like, we got to have this horse go off into the desert and ride backwards, and Mel, whether it's Mel saying, I'm not going to do that, or someone go, they would probably put a mask on him. Sure. Okay. Well, let's put a mask on him. Well, let's not just put a mask on him. Let's put a giant, if we're going to do this, let's go over the top with it, because that is this movie. That is the 80s. Everything is over the top. And so off he goes there, off into the desert. And he had a weird career at this point. He was a star, sort of, but he was only really known for being Mad Max. All his other movies are weird costume dramas and prestige films. Mrs. Sophel and The River and You're Living Dangerously and Gallipoli. Like his other movies weren't big star making things. They were little Oscar bait movies essentially. So his career, because Lethal Weapon's a movie or two away, he was a known guy and a big star. Max made him a star, no question, but he wasn't like some kind of, he was still doing most of his own stunts in this. He was still like on board for the Mad Max experience. So I don't even know that it's not him under there, but why would it be? You can have the second unit shoot it without him. And that is probably what they did. Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to put your, I'm not saying that like Mel big time did. I'm just saying you don't want your star having to do that, sit in heat and all
like
that.
I said, if it's a horse scene and there's no people in it, you're just a stunt guy. You didn't even want anyone to show up that day. Just send the 4 other guys out there and have them capture that and shoot some sunsets and then come back and eat some catering.
Like eight dudes like passed out from sunstroke in the making of this film.
They had more than one Panavision lens on this film for a change, so they really were able to have multiple crews and stuff. The film feels it because they just capture random beauty everywhere, and that's you can do that when you don't have to focus on capturing every little shot on your docket each day. If you've got a second unit, they just start shooting stuff, and then you just put the best stuff in the movie.
So we have Max is gone by. Auntie is like, haha.
Yeah, his tauntaun freezes before he gets to the first marker, basically. Collapses.
Winner, bacon dinner. Everyone, Auntie gets what she wants. The master is there. They can browbeat him and
threaten him,
threaten him, torture him a little bit to get him to do what he needs to do. Which they do, and so hey, everything is coming up, Tina, and
then Beyond Thunderdome goes. When it goes beyond Thunderdome, takes a bit of a turn.
I was gonna say, and then it fades to black. And we are left, and the credits roll, and we're like, "Wow, that was short and bleak." But wow,
why are there children singing in this song? I don't quite understand.
All the children sing,
and then we get the. Then we have who sends out the message? Who sends the monkey? Is it the pilot?
No,
Pig Killer sends a message. Like, hey, here, send this to track Max.
Here's some water.
Give him some.
Pig Killer, quietly, really, really important character in this film. Actually, it's kind of neat.
Pig Killer, for some reason, he is still
had to feed the kids.
He's the crazy. While he is, everything he delivers is kind of a manic craziness. He is the most sane and empathetic person in here. So sends this water out via monkey. But and this is, I'm looking at the chapter list, and this next part is called Found by a Lost Tribe.
We do see some masked sort of desert rat come across him, right, and drag him someplace.
Yep.
And then blow the horn of arrival or whatever.
And it's Savannah. Yep.
And
who's that actor? She's gone on to have a pretty decent career.
Uno momento, por favor. But they end up in this beautiful crack in the world, where everything is just glorious. It is Neverland.
Water.
It is the Lost Boys. It is everything beautiful. Why would you ever want to leave it? I'm trying to find
you should.
What was her name?
Savannah Nix is the name of the character.
Helen Boudet, or Helen Boudet.
She's a good actor. She's still pretty good.
Has done she's still working. She's still got stuff going on. But anyway, so she brings him back, and he is he's passed out. Max has had a rough couple days, and so
gulags will do that,
as one is wont to do when when one has been gulagged. He is passed out. They are nursing him back to health. In one of the classic ways to nurse someone back to health, of course, is to give him a haircut. And so they he's randomly Max suddenly wakes up. He doesn't know where he is. Shocker. He's like, oh my god, what's going on? Off I go. And
I'm sorry guys, I love this part of the movie. I love that the movie goes here. I really, really love all of this. Him getting up and talking to these kids and hey, and they all just repeat what he said. It's so weird, disorienting, and off-putting and delightful. frustrating.
One quick thing, the lighting on him when he's passed out, there's that weird bluish lighting. It's so glorious because he looks dead.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a neat shot.
And so he he's looking around and he's like,
the glorious thing about it is that in this sequence, we have never seen Max thoroughly more out of his element and unable to cope with what's going on around him than we do here. Every other thing, while the pressure is higher, the stakes might be higher, he always just gets by on grit and quickness and all that stuff that he's got, quick thinking, those survival instincts. And he does not, the fact that he doesn't know what to do with these guys, I just find sort of
well, he stopped raising his child when the child was 8 months, so
right. Yeah, and there is ne'er an adult to be seen. It is and this is a weird place where every child grows up to be incredibly good looking.
That happens.
There
and a couple of these guys clearly have
yeah.
children. We see a pregnant one, I believe. So they're
Yep.
They're,
so they're
evolving
building
their own sort of system.
Okay.
Yeah, they're building a society. Yeah, go ahead.
Question for you guys. So what is your theory? Because Savannah and I can't remember the older guy's name, kind of the male leader of the group.
Oh, yeah. That's
because they're both like what, 18, 19?
That must be.
Is that older people?
Is that Finn McCoo?
I don't know. Say the actor's name. I'll know that if I
Adam Scoogle.
No.
It starts with
Shane
an S.
Tickner. Shane Tickner.
No.
Rod Zwanek as Scrooge.
It's weird. He's low because in the credits, and you don't see this on IMDb, separated with the ones who left and the ones who stayed. And he's the top name on the ones who stayed. So keep reading down, and we'll get to him. I'll know.
Yeah, I'm just looking by Helen's name. So we have Helen,
but don't.
Mark Spain.
She went. He stayed. Yeah. Read further down.
But the question
Tom
is,
Jennings.
The question is, where are the older people? And I know we see the little tick marks on the cave drawings. I get all that, and I see the names and all these things, but that had to have been from 2 decades ago.
Yep.
So where are the people above the age of 19?
I don't know.
I'm always like, where are they? Because
maybe they went on carousel and didn't get renewed or something.
I don't know. I've always kind of wondered, wouldn't there be at least some 30-year-olds?
It's weird. It doesn't stand up to that sort of, to that sort of, it's like a fable. It's kind of how I choose to.
Well, I mean, because also there are no kids in Bartertown.
And it is suggested or implied that these two groups of people are related in some sort of way, but you don't really know how.
Interesting. I've never made that connection.
Well, because it's not explicit at all, and of course it shouldn't be. Again, if you start dealing with even little bits of here we're giving you some information, then it all crumbles, because it doesn't make a lot of sense that the kids that are this age have been here for what feels like it has to be generations and yet can't be. It just doesn't survive scrutiny very well. So the only way to get through this is to kind of not scrutinize it, but it's worth mentioning it doesn't hold up to scrutiny. It does not.
Mm-hmm.
But but what's cool about them isn't that. It's their mythology that they have built around themselves, their religion, the way their society works, the hierarchy of it. Other than the character whose name we couldn't find but is in there somewhere, there is a kind of you don't feel like one's in charge of the other, but you do feel like they're the two clear leaders. There's a very buxom, good-looking young fella on the other side of things when things break down, and then of course, like every cool tribe out in the wilderness, this tribe has a medicine man who I adore by the name of Screw Loose, who I always, every time I see him, I think of Michael as a youth. I think Screw Loose captures a little bit of Michael's youthful soul.
Is this the guy with the Bugs Bunny?
Yep, and the dark eyes.
So Tom Jennings as Slake Mathirst.
Slake, it's Tom Jennings. Thank you for sticking with that. I knew it was Slake.
An S.
Oh, that is so not worth the payoff, though.
Yeah,
Slake Mathirst.
Oh
man. Okay, so the tribe who left, that's
there you go. There's a bunch of cool people.
Rod Zwanek,
Tuska Virgin's in this as a really, really young kid. There's a whole bunch of really cool people that kind of have lots of personality. But those three we should concentrate on because they're the ones that carry us through our various things going forward.
Mm-hmm.
So can we explain without reenacting their entire play that they put on for him? Whatever happened, but what they think is happening now, what they think is going on.
Right. The poppy clips.
Plane crashed. And people survived. And this is why, and this could also play into why there are no adults is though it still doesn't track. The adults left, and they said that Captain Walker, who was the pilot, led the whole thing. He's like, I will come back. I will come back and get you. I will come back and save you. And these kids, of course, have that.
And have they made that mural, that wall painting, since he's shown up?
No. I've always looked at it as some kind of supernatural. I mean, the flying fake bird, the fact that it looks exactly like Gibson. There's something very
even dressed like him. I mean, how could they have gotten all that right?
We see Screw Loose when Max first arrives. And everything, we see just the face on the wall with nothing around it. So Screw Loose has filled in the gaps. Filled it in to look like
which is why they cut his hair, to make him look like the person on the wall.
Makes sense.
Sure. Yeah, and they probably ran out of black, making all of that. Trying to make the outfit. They're like, oh, can we just cut his hair? I'm really low on charcoal here.
Yes, exactly.
And So they believe that Captain Walker has returned, and they are to be saved. They are to be taken out of this hellscape of natural water and amazingness and plenty of food and safety.
They are absolute true believers in this myth. They cannot be shaken off of it, or at least some of them cannot be shaken off of it. It is a religious cult that he has stumbled upon. Yep. And that
Max
speech
says, sorry, go ahead.
After Max this really elaborate and fun presentation with a lot of really fun chanting and a lot of this fun language with the way they talk, I enjoy the, what do they call the TVs?
Yeah. TV. Yeah. What was that?
The Sonic,
yeah.
And then they've got a Viewmaster that shows them where they're going, and
Mrs. Walker.
It only is only thing missing is C-3PO you doing sound effects.
Totally.
So we get, and Max realizes, like, oh man, okay, they are. This is a cult. This is their religion. They believe this. But I am, and he says, I'm not Captain Walker. I'm not.
Yeah, it's the way he says it. Look, he's so reasonable. And yet what he's saying is, well, there is no Santa. There is no. I mean, it's the stuff he's saying is brutal to these kids when their belief system. But you're just gonna. There's no Tomorrowland. You got it pretty good here. You don't want to, you're just going to have to accept.
It was like there was a Tomorrowland. There were these giant skyscrapers.
There were
all
these.
And then when they hear a new word, they're like, skyscraper.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. And they're like, oh, and he's like, no, there was. Then the giant, that thing happened, that giant bomb that you so accurately
apocalypse happened.
Yeah. That you so wonderfully.
It's all gone. It's all gone. There's no more.
Yeah, you must have learned in art class how to draw that, and because it's really lovely detail and shading. And he's like, no, wait, I'm not Captain Walker. And we, look, and Max finally, he's like, this is the real deal. You have everything you could. He's like, we're staying.
Yeah.
We're staying. We have water with food, shelter, safety, all this stuff.
They don't jump ahead because they take him up to the plane that has crashed.
That's true.
He throws something up in the air. This is really bad luck for him. He throws something up in the air.
Yeah.
You're right. Wind suddenly suddenly picks up and takes it away. And when the wind comes, they all know the routine. They practice this. And they all just start running out.
Not a drill. Yeah.
Yep. Running out over the dunes. and he comes back up. Kind of the last was kind of sputtering behind him, and
they go to the.
Yep.
There you go. I was going to say they go to the plane, and clearly the legend is Captain Walker is going to get back in the plane, and off they go to
Tomorrowland.
Thank you, Tomorrowland.
And his Neverland, as the
and his when they're all sitting there ready to go, and his sort of turning from them is really tragic and awful. It's just what you would want it to be.
And so some of them are like, geez, okay, well, he told us he's not the guy, and all right. So,
and he sort of explained this new thing, and a lot of them are like, I think the ones that have always had doubt about this in the first place are very easily like, no, we're gonna, led by Slake, are like, well, this is
okay. This is it. We're good.
Yeah,
this is it. And I think he likes his position here. I think he likes where they are. Like, I think he's almost happy to hear that this has changed. But this small but very vocal group of true believers aren't having it.
Led by Savannah. Yeah.
And you could make the argument that Mislake's he has his desires have my thirsts has been slaked. Oh, I ruined my own joke. Anyway,
it was good. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Thanks for that.
So Savannah nicks. Oh, she's nixing this idea that this can't possibly be not a high man. She is a low and not a silver man. She is a Nix. It isn't Savannah Yay. It is Savannah Nix. She says, no, we are gone. We got to get out of here. The legend tells us I will not. We must move. We must travel. We must fulfill our destiny.
Yep.
And
so they knock her out and tie her up. Doesn't Max hit her or something to make her shut up?
Well, no. Okay. Before this is one of my favorite moments from Savannah and in the film in general, is as she starts going up and like, we keep on trekking, we're going. And so there happens to be a rifle and bullets or shotgun shells that are hanging as decoration. So Max grabs it and he actually shoots a water bag right next to her head as she's trying to get out. But her look and her eye kind of twitches. She's like, keep on trekking. And her eye kind of goes like this. And then she goes up and then he goes up there and he knocks her out. But that little eye twitch just tickles me.
Yeah, it's so really cool.
Great.
Really cool.
And Max does have this little moment, not unlike when he can't kill Blaster. He's like, oh crap, I'm gonna have to hit her. I'm gonna have to knock her out. And like he brings his hand back and his hand is open, if I remember correctly. And then he's like, there's like this it's essentially I read it as crap. I have okay. And like I have no other choice here.
He's saving her from hell on earth. I mean, so there's nothing. But he doesn't want to do it, and it's very, very cool. I have to say,
that's a great
somewhere in here when he was dying. There's a scene that they shot that was edited out. It's probably right to be edited out because this film is such a departure from the rest of them as is. So this would have taken it even further. But he has a vision. Basically, he has a vision of his family.
Oh.
And like. And it's not like, it's not like a flashback clip of what they were. It's this idea of what they would be now if the world hadn't ended. And he wakes up in tears and sort of falling apart. And a lot of his journey with these kids it's tough for him, but he's trying to be a better person and do right by them because of that sort of experience that he had when he was near death. They shot all that. And then they kind of cut it just for being.
That's kind of on the same level as Goose being humongous. Like that, what could have been would have been heartbreaking.
Well, or Blaster being what's his face from Mad Max, the
Benno,
the man Benno, which of course can't be because Benno didn't have Down syndrome.
No, but there's this long thing online where like I think it's because. Blaster reminds him of Benno. It goes on and on for 3 paragraphs. And I'm like, you know what? A guy doesn't have to remind you of someone else you knew to not want to kill them.
Yeah.
He sees that he doesn't, I mean, he sees what he sees, and we all saw it. They cast a very specific type of person here to make this, to give this maximum whatever sort of value. But in the end, he sees that who he's been fighting is a pawn, and he refuses to take him out. He just refuses to take him out. And because of that, and that's what matters, I just think let's connect all the disabled people or whatever. It's just
it's like, Max probably went.
Modern fans love connecting dots, and sometimes it's just what it is.
I think he went, it's this trope. Okay, no, I'm not going to participate in this trope.
Oh, I had no idea. Now I understand the trope exactly. It's more that than any of this other.
He turns to the Georges and went, really, you guys? Oh, no. So we have Screw Loose frees the
rebels.
The rebels, the
rebel scum,
the true believers, and they're off.
As any great shaman would, he keeps the faith.
Yep, and so
I love that he never talks, and his favorite thing is that little Bugs Bunny talking thing.
Yeah,
and then he just sits there and hugs it and plays it. So weird. So that kid is so cool. I don't know if he went on to do anything cool, but it's really, really a cool presence in this film.
Let's go and find out, shall we? If that's what this podcast is for.
Well, so Max is woken up by the others, sees that Savannah and the rest of the tribe left, and
Slake basically comes to him and tells him, "Hey, they're gone or whatever," and he's like, "How long have they been gone?" and all that, and he goes out after him.
Yeah, but it's another one of those just reactionary pieces on Max. He's like, "All right," because he doesn't want to. But and he wouldn't if they hadn't left, so he's just reacting to what is happening around him. And some of the kids end up going with them just as.
But he does go. She did save his life, and he does feel protective of them.
Certainly. Yeah. But it's what the hunter, and I think a couple of the kids, and Slake stays behind, obviously the new leader.
Yep.
Of the stay behind kids. So.
Yep.
That's what they should have called themselves.
They called them the ones that stayed.
Slake and the stay behind kids. That's a good, the tribe who stayed.
That's good. That's good for the Saturday morning variety
kids.
show.
Yeah, it's Slake and the stay behind kids. Hey everybody, and they like walking around and they're just doing this for a little variety show for themselves on Saturday mornings. They finally catch up to them when they hear some screaming, and of course,
and this sequence so good.
Yeah,
this is the
wonderfully
brutal sequence, right?
So wonderfully done. I mean, you see that they've already run into trouble. They got a sand pit. The way Miller, Semler, Ogilvy, whoever's responsible for the way this is shot, where it's shot in this sort of like it captures all the emotion on these kids' faces who are really living through this out. Who knows how many days it took to shoot this scene.
Well, they also set up earlier because the horse that Max rode out on in the gulag
disappears, gets gobbled up into the desert.
Yeah, they set this up already.
So they're on a tow line. There's a kid whose face is barely sticking out of the sand, and all the way up the dune, they're holding on to blankets and whatever they can have, and they're just pulling, and Screw Loose is at the kind of anchoring it, pulling for his life, and Samantha's screaming, and this little kid, no offense, it's the second cutest little kid that went out on the trip that is in peril here, and he's just screaming, and it's horrific. And Max he kind of gets what's going on. He comes tearing up, tries to help, just as Savannah's going under because they're losing the battle, and the camera sort of can't see me if you're listening, but the camera's sort of dipping down at this 45-degree angle, and then it cuts and it kind of comes back up. It's just really visually.
Well, no, Savannah comes in the moment. Back up. She comes completely out of the sand, but then whoever
and the towel or whatever that the kid was hanging on to in the end comes out with nothing on the end of it.
Yeah, Finn McCoo is now no more.
Finn
no more.
And they just wail away in grief and horror over it. Yeah. Like it doesn't end with this ironic image of the empty towel or whatever. It ends with their heartbreak and agony over it. Yeah. And it just, I love it. Yeah. Good. I mean, good. This movie at this point needs something to remind us what they're getting into and what's happening, and nothing does it quite like this. This is as dark as the film gets, and it's just sort of awful as it gets, and that's the Road Warrior. And yet it's simple, it's bloodless, but you do not want it's ever believe for a moment you're going to see one of these kids truly in peril. And from here to the end of the movie, that they could be, and that's important.
Well, it's one of those deaths in movies that I don't know, it haunts me. Every time I watch this, it's very upsetting, and I don't know what it is. I think there's that, primal thought in your head of like, what must that have been like? You know what I mean? Like, what happens to you when you go in there and you suffocate on sand? I'm like, I don't need, it's so bizarre.
If I may, I would encourage you to watch ABC's In an Instant, the episode Trapped in Corn, featuring Joel Listman as a firefighter. But it's about a guy who gets sucked down in a corn silo.
Oh God!
Is almost dies, and the only reason he survived.
Spoiler alert for Witness. That's one of the greatest. Angus McGinnis, when he drops the corn on him, it traps him in the silo, is one of the most brutal, drawn out suffocation scenes I've ever seen.
And also, you can watch this season of Barry,
also from 1985,
something like that. Yeah, you can this season of Barry.
No, but that awesome death just sounds so gross.
It is the like spittle and stuff coming out of your mouth, and you're trying to breathe. The air is there, but you're huffing in stuff that's killing you along with it.
Moving on. I can't.
Terrible.
All right. So, end of part 2. The second movie is now done. And now it is a movie about trying
to give the fans what they want. Essentially, that's what does he say? He says it in one line of to this point, cheesy expositionary dialogue, which is, well, we're almost there, so nothing else to do but go to Bartertown.
Yeah, it's our only chance. Here we go.
Some sort of swipe into the rival back there. Let's cut to the chase. Literally, let's cut to the chase as quickly as we can.
So they get to Bartertown, but they know, they're like, well, can't just go walking in the front gate because Auntie's gonna see, and everybody, the collector and all stuff, and he's needless to say, Max is persona non grata at Bartertown.
Yeah,
and so they sneak in through the ducts to the pig
of
areas.
The school.
Of the school. They come in through the tech wing, where the auto shop and
where everybody's really focused on what they're doing.
Yeah.
And this is where we get that shot that Ryan referred to earlier, where they're going in, and because Max also knows, he's like, Master, that's a dude. That dude isn't as bad as we thought. Useful. He just got, he was just too arrogant. But he's useful.
Really, really useful, yeah.
So he's like, aha, we can get...
The Tinkerer character in your post-apocalyptic films is indispensable.
Yep, and it's so, like, he sees Master he's living amongst the pigs.
Yeah,
they've given him a little pen, and we see them go in, and that's when we get the thing where the moment where Pig Killer looks up and sees a kid there.
Sees that girl staring down on him, and neither of them have seen anything like the other before in their lives.
Yeah,
and they make this connection, and they both start smiling. Like, he smiles first, and then she's like, "Oh, he's a friendly friend to the pigs, and maybe he'll be my friend." And she smiles this cute smile back at him, and you're like, you know what, kids, everything's gonna be okay. Like, you just feel it in your heart. Everything, this is gonna work out. I always like that moment in the movie.
Yeah, so let's get Master, let's get my rig, and oh hey, I know we haven't mentioned it at all, and this is not something that has ever come up ever in any of these movies, but there is a perfectly serviceable railroad track that leads out of town and presumably to safety. So, and it has not been affected by an apocalypse in any way, shape, or form.
Yep.
Let's go on that. And so that's the plan. And of course, you can't.
They kind of have to adjust the plan when they get trapped in there, because it really is to get his stuff and sort of sneak out. They have to barrel their way out once they're discovered.
And his rig has now become like part of the underworld setup. So by trying to get that rig going, it takes down the entire infrastructure of the mechanicals of the underworld. And as it says here in the chapter titles, Bartertown blows its lid. And of course we saw it earlier. Auntie has this spy scope, like the submarine spy scope
shot in the movie.
And she's going around and she sees, oh, there he is. Max,
shorter hair.
Shorter hair. But yeah, there's not, it's not like she's like, oh, that can't be him. He's got short hair. No, she knows. She knows right away.
I love that kind of flows in on him and her reaction and the alarms going off. I love that whole little sequence. Yeah, I don't know if we already passed this, but when he chases that mechanic guy and then he runs out the door into
the Star Wars scene. Yeah.
And then he comes back in because there's like, dozen or so of the guards coming in. Yeah.
That is a complete visual, even the camera angle rip off of that Han Solo scene after the trash compactor in Star Wars. Yes.
Yep. And
the turn even goes off the same way. Like everything about it is the same.
Yeah, everything is. Yeah, I was like, oh, well, congratulations, everybody.
Still, it's fun. George. That's a fun gag, and it's definitely fun here. And it's a quick way to get us. We were escaping. Now we're trapped in here. It just gets everybody onto the train and heading out, and that in a big way instead of the sneaky way that they had planned, which I do appreciate. So
and explosions and everything, but they get out and they're on the track and off they're going, and of course the movie fades to black and everyone lives happily ever after. Auntie gets her comeuppance, nope, they have rocket fueled pig shit cars.
Can I just say, when Auntie Entity gets on that car and revs it up, like I'm dead. I'm like, this is the coolest image. I mean, Tina Turner getting on one of these it's just so
Tina
exciting.
Turner, although she didn't do much stunt driving, she did have to get in it and pull forward, and you did have to see her stuff. She had to learn how to drive stick for this car, and she really didn't know much how to drive at all. So it was
she just is so badass in this sequence.
She owns it.
Yeah, so happy.
And again, like the Humongous, she is an active leader. She is a leader that is going to get out there and fight the fight, to back up what she's saying.
I love that. I love that Iron Bar somehow is pursuing these guys on one of the hand operated little trolleys that go on the thing, and he's keeping up with everybody else driving 72 miles an hour.
I love it.
So stupid and ridiculous, but just really, really enjoyable nonetheless.
It's on the Ding Dang poster. I mean, it is like
that's so funny. I mean, it's stupid and it makes no sense, but it's like it's that last thing that doesn't make any sense, that you're just at this point you got to be like, hey, cool, that's funny. It's such a weird visual where he's like pumping and telling other people to go.
I'll get there.
He does not like Max from getting thrown out of the office earlier in the film by this worthless raggedy man, and he just is out for vengeance, and I really, really adore that. He's not Wes. He's not cool. He's almost cheesy and stupid, but in a really, really fun, single-minded sort of way that I enjoy.
Yep.
And that little gag with it. Well, first there's so much fun stuff in here. The thing where they've got Blaster and his stuff, and he's putting stuff in his pack, and then the little girl's taking it out and handing it to Screwloose, and Screwloose is examining it. That's fun as hell. When the old manual alarm goes off, and she freaks out and beats it to death with a hammer.
Because we can assume that this little cottage atop this vehicle, that was Master's home, right?
That was Master's. Yep, that was where he hung out. It was part of that engine. Was part of what made the whole thing go, basically.
And then, of course, the French pronunciation record, which, you know, again, like with the shotgun shells on the rifle, they were using as decoration. They had this record,
right?
Which
they knew how it must have worked, but they couldn't actually make it work.
Yeah.
And now they're hearing one for the first time. That stuff's funny.
Max
looking
reaches
through the binoculars
and
seeing the people far off, and then the guy jumping right up in front of me.
That trick.
That's a great one.
I mean, it's not really there. There are some specifics that happen from here on out. I mean, the whole iron bar insanity. Yeah. But the pig killer scenario.
And maybe my favorite thing in this chase, and I'll just say it. It doesn't happen quite right here, but just to get it out of the way. Is Max smashing the dude with the frying pan and then tossing it to Screwloose, who smashes the other guy with the frying pan, and it's all choreographed perfect, and they're all on the same team. And Max is like, this is something about it. We don't see anything that suggests this until, all right, we're on the same team and we're working it like perfectly well here. And I also how Screwloose like really gets the maximum impact out of that frying pan for the rest of the action sequence is super fun as well. His weird joyride where he's not even steering the car is incredibly delightful. There's a lot of really, I mean, this is not the end of Road Warrior, even though it's a total ripoff of it. There's a lot of really fun PG-13 thrills and spills here that were really tough to pull off for our entertainment, and they're neat. They're really groovy to me. So
let's give it up for the bridge that survived the apocalypse. Thank goodness. Even
with the non-rusty things that Iron Bar has.
Gorgeous bridge.
Hey guys, the world's only been over for about 10, 12 years here. There could be some surviving infrastructure at this point.
Yeah, if anything, it looks
especially
like
the more
apocalyptic blast. The apocalyptic blast blew the rust off of the bridge and just made it look pristine and new.
Well, my favorite part in the chase is Pig Killer and the removal of the arrow through the door.
Yeah, brilliant. I think that was the first time I ever saw this bit of like, we're gonna count to 3. One.
He gets shot. Yeah, I think it's the first time I saw it too. Yeah, he gets shot through the door with an arrow. He's sitting in the cab of the thing that's attached to the train, and it's Pig Killer.
And have I done that to my son when trying to remove a Band-Aid? Yes, I have.
Yes, I have.
Like, I'm going to count to 3. 1.
Movies are also helpful.
Well, and you see Max first, he grabs the arrow and he's going to pull it out, and then he kind of looks at the situation and decides to do the door and just open the door, and the arrow will come out with it. It's fun. And Pig Killer's
what happened to 2?
I think it's at this point where I say everything I learned about being a parent, I learned from
Mad Max
trilogy.
Beyond Thunderdome.
Yeah. The trilogy.
Known as Mad Max 3 in Australia.
Yep. But so, and so all, Mad Max or Max and the gang, they escape, and all of the other vehicles blow up and are taken care of, and the ones that survive say, okay, I guess we got to go home, and fades to black, and everyone's happy and success. Nope. That does not happen.
But they found a way over the river gorge.
They got over the gorge. Somehow. And they
Iron Bar dies 5 more times in this sequence.
Correct.
And doesn't die.
The shot of him screaming in front of
bad day
on the grill of the train.
And he's part of an explosion. He goes flying off into the ravine. He just keeps fighting it, and yet living to fight another day. And Joel is about to say, there's this, you derail yourself. There's this big mound of dirt covering the tracks above, with a very familiar kid in a very familiar safari hat standing on top of it. And what does he say to him? It's funny.
This is a stick up.
So they have to stop to keep from hitting him, and they kind of can't believe what's happening.
The first time ever a train's brakes just work perfectly and it stops. I've never seen a train in movies actually stop when you apply the brakes. And so but yeah, and then as he's like, yeah, this is a stick up, and then you see come over the horizon
all the
Auntie,
cars chasing,
Auntie in the
and
cars.
The kid panics. He's got a little trap door behind him that he goes down into, screaming for his dad. What's his dad reading? A vacation guide of some kind.
Yeah.
It's
Jedediah, the pilot.
Could or could not be Gyro Captain. So everyone follows him down. And the kid's like, someone's coming. And he's like, oh, what's it? And he's like, and then he hears them coming down. And then they basically get on the plane, right?
And isn't there a you moment?
Exactly. I understand that's what we're talking about earlier. That's the moment of recognition that I always take as, oh, Gyro Captain and Max have re-met. But obviously,
or it's actually me.
But it's actually, it could be Jebediah recognizing.
No, it's made deliberately to show that. I don't think it's to like they could be the same. It's an in joke to say these guys have met before in another movie.
Well, and it's also
where they're taking a moment to recognize that.
Yeah,
and also Max knows that that's the dude who who took.
I don't know how he knows that. The movie doesn't demonstrate that in any way, but either way,
that's right. We haven't seen the plane yet.
Right, and he hasn't interacted with this dude in any other way outside of when he was in the plane. So
you're right. So that's what I was like. Oh no, he's making that connection, but no, he hasn't couldn't have made that connection yet because he doesn't.
And
know
yet he is making that connection.
Me, and then he's like, "You've got a plane." Yep. Isn't that what he actually said?
Oh yeah, you're right. Okay, so he somehow does know that that's the plane dude.
We never saw that, Eric. No, but how would he know? They never had any face to face.
I mean, there's ways he could have, but the film does not demonstrate any of it.
Which gives
as I always say,
to my
it's not in evidence.
Yeah, there was. I know that one of the deleted scenes there was another Tina Turner song.
That's no bullshit. That's the strongest argument for that. It is the same guy because otherwise, how would he have any clue?
I know
other than just putting it all together in this moment. Hey, I know you, and I got ripped off by that plane. Oh, I get it all. Like it's all coming to me now. That's the only way it makes any sense based on what's in evidence.
Yeah. They knew. And there was a deleted scene where Tina Turner had another song, and it was like a patter song. Where it was just like, she's like, I'm the auntie entity, and here's the collector, and this is the master, and over there's Jedediah. He flies a plane, not a gyrocopter. He is Jedediah, and I think that's, and I know that was cut for time, but
that would have
that could be how he knows. Anyway, so everyone piles into the plane.
I've just always taken it. Just a final word on this. I've always taken it as it's not a problem. It's a step outside the movie. I know that's annoying, but that's the kind of movie this is. It's a step outside of the movie. Like, I know you because I was in another movie with you where you did this thing that you're doing here. It's the movie really stepping outside of itself to acknowledge he's got a plane. We all know it. We don't want them to spend any time discussing it. We just want to get to the finale.
Yeah.
And I know that's not a popular way to do things, and it's less and less popular with time. But I really do think it is as simple as that. It's the movie makers truly acknowledging to us that they didn't really think this out, and it isn't really one thing or the other, and you just have to deal with it. But I approve of Michael's take. You want to believe that guy's a gyro captain? Go for it. The movie gives you enough that you could absolutely justify that.
Yeah.
I thought that when I was a kid because everything else is unthinkable. And yet, when you grow older, you see, they didn't do any of the work they would have had to do for that to be true. So
other than the you.
Anyway, is Deckard a replicant? I mean, let's leave it there and let Joel finish. But I just want to say that I do think it's one of those odd things that it's just like you got to live with it either way because you're never fully satisfied either way, and everyone's going to have their own opinion. I think.
Yep.
We have so we get in everyone piles in the plane. Of course the plane is not meant to have 12 people in it,
an entire daycare.
And so
that is really
So they're like, we're overweight. So Max is dumping stuff, and they're throwing stuff out.
That's great. They untie the little out on the wings is all the collection of crap, and they untie all of it. And
they get all of that going, and they're. And
I love the cutaways because they untie the one and it works the way it's supposed to. When they untie the other one, it's clearly about to not work the way it's supposed to. So they just cut away. Like they didn't reset up or do all this crap again for that one thing. He just knew, well, we'll just cut out early. Jedediah getting into the plane knocks his hat off, and it almost comes off, but it doesn't. And because they cut before it just falls off, and they're like, that way they can show him in the thing with his hat still on.
Right.
There's an efficiency and hey, this is what happens. Screw it. There's no reason to spend all day getting this hat thing right.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the freedom these films have, and you see it very much in display in this whole sequence here.
Well, Screw Loose shows up.
Yep.
Yeah, with that car that he could. He hit a driver of a car. He jumped onto a car, onto the rig, actually, onto Mel's rig, who was being driven by an enemy. He sat on the top, the wagon part, and smashed the guy driving the thing in the cab with a frying pan repeatedly until he just started zooming all over the place, taking out other cars. It's really, really fun. And Scrooge just sitting up there like, yeah, I'm making this happen. And right when it's needed most, he comes running up in this car. He's the first one in line, basically. Yep. And they grab him off the thing. They throw him into the plane. But they're at this cliff edge. They can't go any further. And as Jedediah says, when he looks back the way they came, there's not enough runway between me and them. Not enough runway.
Yep.
And
Max is like, I'll get you. That there
because Max is the hero we need in this moment. He's not the hero we asked for, Michael. He's the hero that we need. We needed another hero like this. And he says, there will be.
Yep. And so he hops in the car and he is leading the way.
His car from the beginning of the movie. It's just for fun. Let's just remember.
And he kind of neat. He is off and running.
He gets his shit back.
And gets and just plows straight forward, essentially just a massive game of chicken.
Yep.
Which also makes no visual sense. I don't understand how this accident cleared more runway, but again, it doesn't really matter. The exciting thing is the decision, the collision, and watching that plane soar. Mm-hmm. So physics be damned, essentially, as far as that goes. It's the theory, not the reality here that counts.
Yep. And the plane lifts off. And they are safe, and they are flying enough.
And they even turn around and zoom back and fly over them. They give them a little flyover and a little wingtip as they go off into the distance. And Iron Bar is in the car that he crashes deliberately, and they zoom in. Again, and you see his sort of limp, almost running out of life hand caressing his mask that's laying there in the dirt. And then as it's about to coil up and go away, he flips. He flips him the bird.
And
so great. Again, I'm not into Iron Bar early in the movie. He wins me over throughout. the gag wins me over. I have fun with this movie. I love this movie in 1985. And I never just bought into it's cheesy, the kids are stupid, the Road Warrior is awesome, and this is terrible, and it ruins everything. I'm always
I never did either. It's like, I love this movie for what it is, but if you compare it to the Road Warrior, you can't.
You can't.
But that doesn't mean this movie's not enjoyable and not seriously a part of my cinema brain. Like, it's just there. I've seen it so many times, and I quote it. I mean, this is another movie I quote.
But so that bird flip is fantastic. I mean, just everything about it, the way that the hand acting, all of it is so great. And this next thing that happens too is one of my favorite things in the movie, where he kind of sitting there in the dirt and the bad guys are holding the crossbows on him, and he's been in this situation before, and Auntie comes strutting up behind these guys. And what'd she say to him?
She says, ain't we a pair?
That is so, I mean, That is so cool. That moment, she's already been super cool, but that moment takes her in the stratosphere as cool antagonist, because there is no point in gunning this guy down now except revenge. And she's been through all this before. She's built a society out of nothing before. You can just tell she's like, well, you kind of won this round, but how much worse can it get for you lying in the dirt here all beaten up? And Ain't We a Pair is fantastic, but my favorite line of hers in the whole thing is "Goodbye, soldier." So,
yep. No, her strut when she gets over and pushes the dress back to get back into the vehicle. This is what I'm talking about, Tina, in this movie. Everything she does makes me happy, you know. And
his sort of happy bewilderment at what has just transpired is. It just knocks you out. It's really, really cool, I think.
And so because we still have some studio money left, the plane makes its way to Tomorrowland, or what
Joel and Michael finally get to see some destroyed infrastructure in the film, which they have not seen up until this point.
And we see Sydney, post-apocalyptic Sydney, everything blasted away.
The famous bridge in the Opera House, obviously, all the things you would want to see that say "Scream Sydney."
Yep, and the city is starting to be reclaimed by the desert, the sand. The outback is making its way back in the inback, and so and then we cut to we end with the gathering of the tribe who left. A
lot more infants and newborns in this scene. That's pretty neat.
They are rebuilding. They are lighting lights around the city.
Jedediah the pilot not present. Perhaps he made his way north to regain his own tribe based on this.
Yeah, maybe he realized, I miss 80s girl. I gotta go see. I miss that side pony.
If that's the case, I mean, that is his baby mama. You know?
They don't show him here. I mean, and they could.
They show Pig Killer, they show Screw Loose, they show Savannah, and a lot of the other kids, but they're all somehow grown, which is great. I don't know how they kind of managed it.
Yeah,
but they all look definitely a year or two, maybe 3 years older. It's pretty impressive.
And she's doing that thing that Joel talked about last time. She's telling the story, still telling the story.
Yep. The oral history of their tribe, the oral history of their people, and they're lighting the lights so that others can find their way home, and which is they are, you know, that I will say that's one thing throughout all of these movies, if I'm remembering correctly. You almost never you know, in a lot of post-apocalyptic and movies and stuff, it's all about, I have my stuff and I'm not letting anybody in. The post-apocalyptic Australia is, no, you can come in. You know, Bartertown, you can gather you, and so a very welcoming post-apocalyptic. That's interesting. It's something that just occurred to me.
Not without its challenges, though.
Not without its challenges. Yeah, no, I mean, there's a price to be paid for entering, but it's a pretty open door policy, which is they saw the light was on, I'd stop by, and
stop it.
And so they are saying we will keep the lights on, and it pulls back to see some of them, and they're
on the 30th floor of a skyscraper in Sydney, and you see the wrecked, really great final image in the film, really, really big in scope, again, big in effects, nothing like you could have ever had in the earlier ones. And a really cool, really cool way for this trilogy to go out.
You do get that last shot of Max walking toward the sun.
Oh yeah, because they're talking. Yeah, and they were talking about the man who helped them get their way home and blah blah blah. And of course, we cut to Max, and Max is, you know, he's back on the road, a walking,
warrioring.
And this was the first movie the first movie ever in my life. I remember vividly that I sat through the entire ending credits to listen to this song.
Oh my God. I did
love this song.
The other night when I was watching it, and I'm like, yep, no, I'm staying for the whole, like, I was watching
it's the same people who wrote What's Love Got to Do with It. Lyle, Gary Lyle, or
the Crocodile
Greg Lyle, and Terry Britton.
Great song.
It is.
And it just, I mean, it's very, very 80s, but just all the best things about 80s arrangements. It's pretty sparse, actually, even though it feels huge because of that tune timpani that goes off. That is such
Graham Lyle. Yep.
Graham Lyle. Thank you. Sorry.
And Terry Britton. Yeah. Graham and Terry.
And it's just something about it. It's a glorious song. I mean, it's corny. It's how could you have a hit song that has the term and Beyond Thunderdome in it, which out of context is meaningless, but it just, so it's meant to have a video to promote the film, to sell lunch boxes. That's the whole game here. But the musicianship and the sort of clever seriousness with which they imbue this tune, the lyrics really look at what she's saying. It reflects the harsh reality of the world that we've lived through in a very real way. Mm-hmm. And I still, to this day, I adore it. I get chills when I hear Beyond Thunderdome.
Oh, for sure. But I think it speaks so highly to how Hollywood the franchise became.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, this is so not the tone of the other two films.
This is a studio film. This is a studio film. Very, very much so, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, despite the fact, so who you were talking about earlier, two people hate it or two people love it, one person hates it. So you're not a fan, Joel, necessarily?
No, I'm not a fan of all of these movies, and this one least of all. I mean, I recognize it for, it has some fun things, and these are beloved characters, not by me. But no, I don't. I mean, literally my favorite part is the closing credits, so I can hear the song.
Well, at least they saved the best for last.
Yeah. Exactly. So I mean, but like, I'm not going to sit here and shit on it and say it's just not. It's not a movie. These aren't movies that I love.
It's the same for Elwood, my hubby. He's like, doesn't speak to him. Yeah. This franchise is so important to my older brother and I. This one, it was something we shared for years and years and years, and we watch this together all the time. We talk about it all the time. Like, and there isn't a phone conversation even now that we get on that Roadwire somehow doesn't come up, and he recognizes too that Thunderdome is not all it could be, but it's still beloved. It's still something I adore,
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is absolutely it. I mean, you could almost say that this is like the an absolute textbook illustration of what happens when studio suits get their hand on an indie property.
No doubt.
And because it really is just bloated, and it is, it follows the template of many 80s action films. And it just
it feels like it feels like a Goonies sort of version of Mad Max, which is strange. It's like that.
Well, we've already given the other references to other big movies that it has. It has several that are like direct ripoffs. Goonies, it couldn't have ripped off because they were being made at the same time.
Exactly, but still that's what I
saw both of those films in the same weekend, and they go together like a horse and carriage. I mean, they really do go together. They're absolutely the same approach to big budget family, let's get the kids money, movie making of that era, without doubt. They're very, very similar. They're even color timed in a very similar style and similar way, which is interesting.
And that is and I mean,
they both have a little bit of that mid 80s, frankly, mean-spiritedness to them. They reflect a sort of cruel modern world, one metaphorically and one in reality, and it's interesting. It's interesting to me. But Goonies, that's another deep dive. I guess we'll have to have Michael on for that one, huh, Phil?
I'll do it.
So all right, that is Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. That is Mad Max May. That is the trilogy. Yes, we know there is Mad Max Fury Road. That is its own thing. That is not part of this. That doesn't mean that we won't talk about it sometime.
No, we'll talk about it.
But
although I can't imagine Joel liking that one any more than the rest of these.
I don't know. And but
we'll talk about it.
Yeah, but we have so this is it. It's these are three films that are I mean, yeah, two of them are quintessential like Aussie independent films that sort of created a, you know, it is something that really clearly connected as part of the cultural, I hate this phrase and I'm about to use it, cultural zeitgeist of the time.
Well, it is the template for all post-apocalyptic stories going forward. It created that the whole subgenre traces all the way back. It's not that there hadn't been post-apocalyptic films before it, but all of them are like one of these, one way or another, and all of them. I mean, it's like, think about, I mean, it's not like the first Western or whatever, but just they are super significant. And the last thing I'll remind everybody, in George Miller, intention within action. Nobody on earth that I'm aware of does that better than he does. And this film has that too, which is, for me, is glorious to watch when I see so much bloated nonsense, stupid snark within useless action in modern filmmaking, to see tension within action, and then to see Fury Road, which is all it is intention within action there, and then almost anything else to it. That's exciting. It's exciting to see somebody put their stamp on the movie industry in a unique way. That's neat. He gets a lot of, because I don't even like many of his other movies, but he gets a lot of credit for that.
Mm-hmm. And he also gets a lot of credit for his continuous love of the saxophone. All right. So, Michael, thank you so much for joining us for these. Obviously, I can't imagine talking about these movies without you. It's, you know, it's always great to have you on. It's always great to see one of our best. Thank you for having me. World. All right, everybody. That's going to do it for us. Movie Show with Joel and Ryan page on Facebook and all the other socials. You can reach out to us at email via email. And also, if you are watching this, if you were one of the 3 people who accidentally stumbled upon this on YouTube, you know, give it a like. Write a comment. Say, hey, cool graphics or something. I don't know.
Don't want to beat a dead gulag horse, but I mean, give it a like. But that just whatever that is to you, think of what little it is to you, and just imagine that amplified times 1,000. Mm-hmm. That's what it is to us. Please, if you see us and you care about us at all, hit the like button. You want to share, great, but no one's asking you to do that. Like it.
Share.
That'd be even better. But like it. Just like it. That's easy. Costs you nothing. Is everything to us. Everything.
All right, everybody. That is going to do it for us. Thank you so much. Go give the Master Blaster or the Humongous in your life a big hug.
Thank you for listening to The Movie Show with Joel and Ryan. Remember, all views and opinions represented in this podcast are personal and belong solely to the speaker and do not represent those people, institutions, or organizations that the speaker may or may not be associated with, unless explicitly stated. None of these views and opinions were intended to malign or deceive. And now, here's the producers, circa 1982, to play us out.